There was once a boy who couldn't sit still, a boy who teachers said was too distracted, too hyperactive, too much. But that same boy would grow up to become the most decorated Olympian in history. His name was Michael Fred Phelps II, born on June 30th, 1985, in Baltimore, Maryland. He was the youngest of three siblings in a household where discipline was expected, but emotional connection was hard to find. His father, a state trooper, strict and distant, would eventually walk away from the family when Michael was just 9. That divorce would leave a scar, one that Michael wouldn't fully understand until much later in life. School was a struggle. He was diagnosed with ADHD, and the classroom became a battlefield where he was constantly told to sit still, to behave, to be like everyone else. But he wasn't like everyone else. His mother, a school principal, saw more than just the diagnosis. She saw energy, drive, untapped potential. So she put him in swim lessons, not to make him a champion, but to help him focus. That decision changed everything. The pool didn't just give Michael an outlet, it gave him a sense of control, a rhythm to silence the noise, and a place where he finally felt he belonged. It was the one space where he could let go and at the same time take control. Every splash, every breath underwater was an escape from the chaos of a world that didn't understand him. The pool didn't just save Michael, it gave birth to the legend he would become. The pool was his silence. To most people, water is calm, but to Michael, it was more than that. It was where the world made sense. At the age of 7, he entered the pool not knowing it would become his sanctuary. It started as a simple way to release his endless energy, but by 10 years old, Michael was shattering national records for his age group. His body was made for swimming, an unusually long torso, flexible joints, flipper-like feet, and the lung capacity of someone twice his size. But more than his body, it was his mind. His laser-like focus, his hunger for improvement, his willingness to do what others wouldn't. He wasn't just fast, he was obsessed with getting better. While other kids played, Michael counted laps, timed his strokes, and visualized winning. He hated to lose. Every race became a mental battle that he prepared for like a warrior going to war. At 15, Michael became the youngest male swimmer to qualify for the U.S. Olympic team in nearly 70 years, competing in the Sydney 2000 Olympics. He didn't win a medal, but he stood at the edge of greatness. More importantly, he made a silent vow to himself and to the world watching. I'm going to be the greatest swimmer the world has ever seen. And he meant every word. The making of a machine. After Sydney, Michael transformed. He wasn't just training, he was building a machine. Under the watchful eye of coach Bob Bowman, Michael trained harder than anyone else. His days started before sunrise with grueling swim sessions that lasted hours. There were no breaks, no excuses, holidays didn't exist, and rest days were a myth. He swam 365 days a year, sometimes twice a day, averaging over 80 kilometers per week in the water. He studied his movements on underwater film, perfected his turns, and fine-tuned every detail of his stroke. He lifted weights, practiced visualization, and controlled every variable that could make him stronger, faster, more efficient. He trained until his muscles ached, until his lungs burned, until he knew he'd given more than anyone else. In Athens 2004, at just 19 years old, he proved he was more than a promise. He was a force. He won 6 gold medals and 2 bronze. For most athletes, that would be a career high. For Michael, it was merely a stepping stone. He wasn't chasing medals, he was chasing immortality. And in 4 years, he would attempt something the world believed was impossible. And the scariest part? He knew deep inside that he could do it. The impossible 8. Beijing 2008 wasn't just another Olympics. It was a mission, a masterpiece, a moment that would define Michael Phelps forever. His goal, 8 gold medals in a single Olympic Games, a feat no athlete had ever achieved. Every race was a battlefield. In the 4x100-meter freestyle relay, it looked like the U.S. team would lose, until teammate Jason Lizak swam the race of a lifetime to secure gold by a fingertip. In the 100-meter butterfly, Michael won by 0.01 seconds. A blink, a breath, a heartbeat. Each victory etched his name deeper into history. He didn't just swim, He soared, defying science and setting new standards of human ability. And while the world watched in awe, behind the goggles was a man laser-focused, fueled by years of preparation, pain, and passion. By the end of the games, he had done it. 8 gold medals in 8 events, breaking Mark Spitz's legendary 1972 record. The world bowed in awe. He was crowned the greatest Olympian of all time. Cameras followed him, endorsements poured in, and his image was everywhere. But beneath the surface, beneath the golden glow of victory, something else began to stir. A quiet storm was building, and it would soon pull him into a battle no medal could prepare him for. The price of glory. What happens when the applause fades, when the medals are put away and the lights go out? For Michael, the silence after Beijing was deafening. With no more mountains to climb, he drifted into darkness. Depression wrapped around him like a fog, and the discipline that once defined him turned into isolation. In 2009, a photo surfaced of Michael using a marijuana pipe. The media erupted. Endorsements were lost. He apologized, but the truth was clear. Michael was in pain. In 2014, he was arrested for DUI for the second time. The man who had seemed invincible in the pool now felt powerless on land. He withdrew from the world, ashamed, broken, and tired of pretending everything was okay. He later admitted, "I didn't want to be alive." That moment of despair led him to rehab, where for the first time, he wasn't Michael Phelps the swimmer. He was just Michael, a man learning how to live with himself. And in that painful journey, he discovered that being the greatest wasn't about medals, it was about learning how to be whole again. The comeback. Rehab didn't fix everything, but it gave Michael something he had never truly known: space to breathe, to feel, to heal. With therapy and support, he began to understand himself beyond the sport. He opened up about his mental health struggles, finding strength in vulnerability. He learned to let go of perfection, to embrace the messiness of being human. And then, in 2016, he did something no one expected. He came back, not for glory, not for records, but to finish his story on his own terms. In Rio, at 31 years old, an age when most swimmers are long retired, Michael Phelps returned to the Olympic stage. This time, he wasn't just an athlete. He was a father, a mentor, a man who had faced his darkest moments and emerged stronger. He won 5 more golds and 1 silver, bringing his total Olympic medal count to 28. But more than the medals, it was his presence, his calm, his leadership, his humanity that left a lasting impression. Michael didn't just make a comeback, he made peace. And perhaps for the first time, he swam for joy. Beyond the medals. Michael Phelps retired with 23 Olympic gold medals, more than anyone in history. But his real legacy began after he left the pool. He became a voice for mental health, speaking openly about depression and the pressures athletes face. He started the Michael Phelps Foundation, using his platform to promote emotional well-being and healthy lifestyles for kids and families. He became a husband to Nicole and a father to 3 boys, embracing a role he once thought he'd never be ready for. He continued to inspire, not with times on a stopwatch, but with his honesty, his passion, and his willingness to be real. Michael Phelps taught the world that even the strongest need help, that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage, and that true greatness isn't about perfection, it's about resilience. It's about how you rise after you fall, how you keep going when no one's watching, and how you love yourself enough to keep fighting. The man who couldn't sit still. He was once a boy who couldn't sit still, who struggled in school, who felt like he didn't fit in, but he found the water. And in that water, he found himself. Michael Phelps turned distraction into direction, pain into purpose, and struggle into strength. He wasn't just built to swim, he was built to overcome. Today, he stands not just as the most decorated Olympian of all time, but as a symbol of what it means to fight, to fall, and to rise again. His story is a reminder that greatness comes in many forms. Sometimes it starts with a diagnosis. Sometimes it begins with heartbreak. But with enough passion, perseverance, and self-belief, it can end with history. And maybe, just maybe, your story is next. If Michael's story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more inspiring stories. and let us know in the comments, whose story should we tell next? This was the life of Michael Phelps, the boy who dove into the deep and came out shining.